Thanks for coming out today. We have an exciting presenter, and I'm happy to welcome Jonna Reeder. And Jonna is with Ready Cincinnati. She is the president and CEO of the Regional Economic Development Initiative, also known as Ready Cincinnati. She was named to that position in 2014. Jonna was previously the Vice President of Community Relations and Economic Development for Duke Energy, Ohio, and Kentucky. She was part of the Duke Energy Economic Development team, named the top utility for economic development from Site Selection magazine for over a decade. Jonna has received numerous recognitions, such as a Woman Worthy of Note by the Kentucky Lane Report magazine, a Top 20 Woman to Watch recipient by the Cincinnati Enquirer, a Next Generation Leader Award from Legacy, and an Outstanding Woman of Northern Kentucky. She also was a 40 Under 40 award winner and the YWCA of Greater Cincinnati's Rising Star Award. So really not sure why we had so many men that just won that, because but that's okay. So I'd like to introduce Jonna and have her give us an update on Ready.
Very good, thank you. I feel like I'm testifying for Congress or something. This is like, I plead the fifth. So Jason and I had a little powwow right before this started. I stink at sitting still. I mean, I was ADHD before it was cool, and so usually I get up, I move around, I'm talking to you, but I understand that you won't be able to hear me, or whoever we're filming this for will not be able to hear me. So I'm going to do my best, but this is also how I get my steps on my Fitbit, because if I move around, it keeps going up. So you'll have to bear with me. I'm going to sit here and try to be very still, and I won't read to you, though. This is fun for me. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to come out, and I speak to a lot of groups about what Ready Cincinnati does and how you might want to be involved or how we might be able to help you, but I rarely speak to small business groups, and you'll understand a little bit more based on what we do in a moment. But when I came in and I was meeting people, I looked around, and all of a sudden I saw that I saw John from JK Window and Doors, because this Saturday he was just at my house and I bought a door from him. So I'm like, it is a small world here. I know. So, and I live in Mount Lookout. Like, did I know you before? So twice in 1 week, they're going to talk about us. So. But this is what is really special for me, because small businesses are what have built this country, continue to grow in this country, and truly are what are supporting the large companies across our region. So you're our backbone. So I'm very pleased to be here and share with you a little bit about who we are. So Ready Cincinnati. Ready Cincinnati is the Regional Economic Development Initiative, hence the Ready. We are the first point of contact for any company looking to locate to the 15-county region or to expand within the region. Now, let me give that caveat here. We are not the only point of contact. It's just that we know the right people to go to. So think about with your small business, and I have a feeling a lot of you don't have HR departments and finance departments and attorneys on staff because you're busy running your business. Well, most companies don't have people that are automatically going to be their real estate department. So we're there, and local economic developers are there to help them with their siting decisions. That's what we do. Now, economic development is not new to this region. Even though Ready Cincinnati was only formed in 2014, this group was formerly a part of the Greater Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce. It was a department of, it was called Partnership. Some of you may have heard that. It was around for a long time. I served on their board as a volunteer when I was with Duke. I was involved with the chamber. There's no big scandal. Nothing happened that you had to take it out from under the chamber because something was wrong. It's just that the senior business community, many of those large companies such as Western and Southern and Procter & Gamble and AK Steel, they were looking at our numbers. They were looking at how many jobs have we created in Southwest Ohio over the past year or longer, and how do we compare with the rest of the state in capital investment? In other words, bricks and mortar, people building buildings for business, not residential, and new jobs. And ladies and gentlemen, we weren't doing so well. we weren't, we not only were getting beat by Columbus or Cleveland, which you might think, well, you know, they're bigger, but Toledo and Dayton, the only place in the state that we were surpassing in new jobs was Appalachia. And, you know, not that these other cities are not nice places, but we have a lot more assets. We're much bigger than some of those locations. So we said, hold on, we need to regroup on our business plan here. So we took economic development out from under the Chamber of Commerce and made it an independent entity. Because just like in your business, where you focus, where you concentrate is where you're going to be successful. So the only thing that Ready Cincinnati concentrates on are helping companies attract to the area or helping companies expand in the area. Now, why in the world would we have 15 counties and in 3 states? So we have five counties in Southwest Ohio, 7 in Northern Kentucky, and 3 in Southeastern Indiana. It's because it's the metropolitan statistical area. Because when you're trying to hire someone for your company, you don't say, well, how many people live in Westchester? How many, in Forest Park, how many people can I get to come to work for me? You say, how much talent can I attract? It's a region, and talent comes from all sides of the region. I know lots of people that live in Boone County, Kentucky, and work in Mason, Ohio, and that's good. That's good for all of us because then it is a thriving region. So again, we promote, we market as a region. And then I tell my good friends, Paul in Forest Park or David in Hamilton County, then you sell locally. And we'll explain how that works in a moment. So what do I mean when I say we market? Well, it's one thing to do traditional marketing, you know, social media, Twitter, having a Facebook account, having a website. A website's extremely important in our world. But we market directly to companies and to what they call site selection consultants. Those are people that help a company make a siting decision, that they're hired to help them. Well, we're marketing directly to them. We're sending them information, we're using traditional, but we also, marketing is going to them. We work in 5 countries outside the U.S. trying to find companies that want to locate to the U.S. So we're in Germany, we're in Japan, we're in Israel, and we're in India. And this year we're exploring Brazil because there's a lot of development happening there. And then we're all across the U.S. Now, how do we pick where we go? Well, states that have not done so well in being business friendly. High taxes, government regulation, government scandal. Well, those are states we concentrate on. So frankly, you know, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, California, Illinois, we're in all those states quite a bit, talking to companies and trying to sell them on why the greater Cincinnati region is a place they need to look at for a possible relocation or expansion of their company. But working in those 4 to 5 countries, we actually physically go there. We have a consultant on the ground at all times, and they're always telling the greater Cincinnati story. So my team will visit those countries 2 to 3 times a year, along with some of the local economic developers. Those local economic developers are probably the ones you know. They're usually part of government. They're usually housed within a city or a township or a county. The city of Cincinnati has their own economic development team. Paul Brim here in Forest Park, he handles economic development in Forest Park. Christine Russell that's here handles Springdale. And you need those local experts because who knows their community better than those locals? I can't know everything there is in that specific community, nor can my team. But they probably can't afford to go and do and market unless we all use our resources together. So that's why I said we market the region and then they sell locally. So that's to give you an idea of where we're located. So what do we market within? You can't be all things to all people. And some things we're just going to be good at in this region. You've probably seen that a whole lot of distribution and logistics facilities have shown up here. That's not an area, we call them clusters or sectors. That's not something we concentrate in because it's going to happen anyway. We're blessed with 2 major interstates, 75 traveling through here from Canada to Florida. That's a real plus. So we're within a day's drive of half of the U.S. buying population. Hence, you get one of Amazon's biggest facilities in northern Kentucky. You get Monroe that has landed several really nice distribution facilities. But the thing for us is we try to concentrate in a variety of clusters that we're either really good at or we want to be better in. In other words, they pay well. Nothing wrong with that. So manufacturing, that's our bread and butter in this region. Ladies and gentlemen, we were founded on manufacturing. Those are good paying jobs. They last. You put metal in the ground and you put big equipment, it's a lot harder for them to leave. So that's why you want to keep companies like Millicron, GE Aviation. Those are all manufacturing facilities. You want to take care of them. Biohealth, that's a fast-growing area. Those are high-paying jobs. So when you have University of Cincinnati Research and Development, when you have Children's Hospital right there, we've got a competitive edge to have biohealth, but we've got to stay at that or we'll lose out to places like Boston. Food and flavoring, we have a lot of water and it's good water. Now, you may be able to tell me some stories of, well, it's not great here. Well, compared to Texas, they're constantly in a drought. Arizona, California, well, that's a competitive edge for us. So that's a reason that Jevadon or Wild Flavors would be here. IT, everyone loves IT. I always say, what does that mean exactly? Because your company probably has a technology component if you're trying to get to your customers, but is that recruiting IT companies or recruiting the IT function? And that would be the same way in shared services. Many large companies, Citigroup has to be on Lexington Avenue for their headquarters in New York. But those back office functions, which are things like IT and your attorneys and your accountants and your call centers, you put that in a mid-sized city, which is what Greater Cincinnati is, those are $30,000 to $70,000 a year jobs. Those are good jobs in our region. You can't live on that in New York. Bam. That's something that we're concentrating on bringing to this area. So the GE Service Center that was on the river, that's a good example. But Barclaycard that we landed last year in Hamilton, Ohio, that's a back office service center, another great win for our region versus one of those higher cost places to be. Now with that lead generation, I would point out, people ask me, well, do you help every company? What if I want to start a business? What if I'm a two-person operation and we need to find venture capital or we need help at the bank? Well, I said we're the first point of contact because we don't want any company to feel like they fall through the cracks. They don't know who to go to. They don't get to someone that will help them. But we're not the ones that are going to help with those specific needs. We only work with companies that roughly are 10 employees or more, about 700,000 in payroll. Usually our sweet spot are companies that have 50, 100 employees or even higher. But we'll get those companies to the right person. So if it's a startup, we're going to take them to the Small Business Administration. We're going to send them to Centrifuge or CincyTech or the Hamilton County Business Corporation that can help a company based on their size. But those companies that are wanting to find a site, they've outgrown their current facility. They need to leave that spot for a reason. We do site searches at no cost. We will help them if they're growing in their number of employees over the next 1 to 3 years. We will help them with their incentives from the state of Ohio, or if it's in the state of Kentucky or Indiana, we'll get you to the right person. We market the whole region, but we only close projects in Ohio. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, who would I go to if my company has a problem with, they added this road out in front and I need a driveway cut on the road? I would tell you, know who your local economic developer is first. You should use them first. They should be your first point of contact. And I promise you, if you're in need of incentives or there's a state issue with taxes or with laws, they're going to call us and we're going to work together. So they should always be your local partner first. We don't overstep them. But we have had from time to time that a company has outgrown their location and there's nothing available in their city or their county or their township. Well, Our first goal is always to keep them in their existing taxing jurisdiction. But if you don't have a spot for them in that jurisdiction, well, then our goal is to keep you in the region. Because I promise you, Tennessee, that I'm very familiar with, pushes really hard to get you to move there. Michigan is extremely aggressive. So we're competing on a global scale. So I always tell my local economic developers, we're here to help you keep them where they are in place. But after that, our goal is to keep them in the region, and they get it. And I will say this, also, anyone that thinks that we as an organization or our local economic development partners are spending time going and talking to companies and saying, hey, John, you really should have your company in Blue Ash, because it'd be so much better if you were in Blue Ash versus Forest Park. That is not happening. And if it is, we are not a part of that. Because it really doesn't help for a company just to move within our footprint. You're keeping the same employees. It may help that local government a little bit for a short time, but then you can have like an Omnicare that utilized that opportunity to move to Northern Kentucky. They got the bank from the state of Kentucky, and then they turned around and did the same thing in Ohio. And now they just got bought out, and we're losing jobs. So we don't spend time on that kind of nonsense. We're competing with Atlanta, with Houston, with Chicago, with the Philippines, with Tel Aviv in Israel. So you get my idea. We're competing on a much broader scale. But one of the things we do in addition to attraction is business retention and expansion. We spend a lot of time, we meet with 200 companies a year in just the 5 counties in Southwest Ohio to sit down and find out, how's your business going? Do you feel like, are you having any tax implications that are bothering you? Is there anything at the local level that you're having a problem with? Is Duke Energy or your local provider keeping the lights on? You know, what is it you need to grow in place? And we do that in conjunction with the local economic developer. We don't come in and meet with you without the local, because it's much better if you got a local issue, they can take care of it. If you have a state issue, we work directly with the state. But we do 200 of those visits a year because it's much less expensive for us to find a company that wants to grow in place than try to bring a new company here. And the other thing is, I'm a little partial to those of you that have invested in our region, and we want to be sure you're getting what you need versus just always wanting to cut a new ribbon. Every politician loves a new ribbon, but at the end of the day, making sure our existing companies are growing in place, that's better for everyone. It absolutely is. Please. So is it working? You know, all this concentrating our swim lane, we're only working within business attraction expansion. We don't do government affairs. We don't do land banking. We don't do leadership development programs. We leave that to the local chambers. They're really good at that, or to your port authorities. They're really good at that. We work with them. We don't try to do it for them. I would say for this year, it doesn't look like much. 3 projects since the beginning of January. It's 146 new jobs in that 5-county region, only in Southwest Ohio, and almost $5 million in capital investment. But last year, so for the full year, we had over 8,000 new jobs in our region. Over 7,500 of those took place in Southwest Ohio, the 5 counties. Over $1 billion in capital investment in this region. That's really good. I'll just say, we were next to last a few years ago for our region, and by all the cooperation with our local governments, our local economic developers, us in the region, working with the state, we created 1/3 of all new jobs in the state of Ohio last year. Columbus is in our dust right now. I'm just playing. I'm not competitive or anything. No. They may have a great year this year. My point being, we're competing now. We just need to get our fair share. This is a great region of the country, and we've got to be aggressively outselling it, though, because when you're talking about being in Israel or India, or even on the East and West Coast, many times they just think of all of us as flyover country, and wait a minute, are you in Iowa or are you in Ohio? I mean, it's ridiculous, but it is what it is. And there's this old adage of, oh, aren't you Rust Belt? Don't y'all just have a bunch of old manufacturers there? Absolutely not. But we have to be out telling our story. We have to be out selling, and we have to be aggressive in marketing this region, or we will fall behind because our story doesn't get told for us like a New York or an Atlanta. And that is who we're competing with. And in fact, last year, Site Selection Magazine, which is the guru in my industry, if you've got a trade pub that in your industry you're constantly looking to, you want to be thought of by Site Selection Magazine. And last year, they rated the world's most competitive cities. They do it one issue a year. And Greater Cincinnati, which all of you would be a part of, we ranked in the top 5 in 5 of those cluster areas, sectors. So in other words, out of all major metros in the world, we were in the top 5 for 5 of those sectors. So it wasn't that we're just good in aerospace, and it wasn't that we're just good in chemicals and plastics. And there were no other cities, no other regions that were in the top 5 for 5 areas. Some are really good in one thing. Think about Austin, Texas. They're really known for technology, and they're good. But we're in 5 of them. And that's another thing that's great for this region, because when the economy does this, we're the last to go into a recession and the first to come out, because we can balance with our industries. So I firmly believe you don't put all your eggs in one basket for manufacturing alone or biotech alone, but we have to say, this is what we're good at, this is where we're concentrating on, and then sell the heck out of it. So I appreciate your time today. I hope I didn't confuse you about, wait a minute, I still don't get what she does or what they do or who I should call. And if that is the case, that's why we left 15 minutes to be able to have some candid discussion, and I'll help answer any of your questions. I appreciate your time and attention. I will say this, my little commercial before we go. You may have noticed my accent gives me away a little bit. I did not grow up here. Don't ask me where I went to high school, because it's the only high school in my little small town in Tennessee. I grew up in Tennessee. But I've been here 15 years, and this is home to me. And I could have moved anywhere. My husband covers the Northeast for work. They really wouldn't understand me up there, but what I mean is I could have picked anywhere to live, and moving to this region, it's my kind of region. I think this is a place where you can roll up your sleeves and you can get things done. I knew no one 15 years ago, and if you're willing to jump in and get your education or get your credentialing and what's important, people will open doors here. They appreciate hard work and dedication. What I have seen, though, is many times people that grew up in this area are not always our best salespeople. It's some kind of humble, this Midwestern, we don't brag who we are, and I appreciate that. But if you're not bragging, why would you expect anyone else to brag about your region? So the next time you get on that airplane or you're Facebooking with your granddaughter or whatever it might be, and someone says something about, hey, well, where are you from? And if you stop and you say, oh, Cincinnati, or you say, well, you really wouldn't know where it is, the negativity, it permeates. And people do business with people they trust, with people they know. They'd much rather hear from a business person than hear from me as the salesperson. I'm the sales group. Your local economic developers are your sales group. But when a company, an individual hears from you that, oh, this is a great place to have a business, you ought to be in Springdale, because I am telling you, you can get to the right people at the right time. Substitute Mason, Westchester, Forest Park, Hamilton County, whatever it might be. When you tell the story of why it's a great place to raise your family, or you can get anywhere within 30 minutes, it's not a sales gig. It's coming from the heart. So I just ask that you remember, we can do all the fancy ad campaigns. I can buy as much media as my budget will allow, but the word of mouth can either help you or can kill you. So I just hope that you'll remember that every day you're a salesperson for this region too. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Oh, Jason, I made it. I sat the whole time. I'm kind of getting twitchy, but okay. Yes, sir.
Do you see our region as way disadvantaged because we don't have in place the mass transit function here yet? We're getting the first steps, but do companies look the other way so far?
Yeah, so the question was, does mass transit matter? Do companies look the other way if you don't have mass transit? And I would say it depends on what the company is, what the company does. Today's talent, the younger generation, the millennials that make up the majority of the workforce now, are very cognizant about sense of place. They like to work and live close by, so transit is important. Hamilton County has a pretty good busing system. Could always be better, but you know, if you had $1 gazillion, you could do anything. I do see that it makes a difference if you're needing to get people to and from their workplace. And if you want that, manufacturing person that you're trying to grow into a job that may not have transportation at this point, you need to be on a bus line. You do. Our outer ring counties, so Butler, Warren, Claremont, and Brown, we serve those in Ohio, and then in Northern Kentucky too. It is tough when a company needs to get people to a location because the busing does not always go there. So 75 is the hottest corridor I've ever seen. And I've been doing this a lot longer than 2 years, even though I've been doing it here. I know you thought she's got to be 22, but I've been doing this a long time. This is not my first rodeo. And 75 is amazing because Dayton and Cincinnati are growing together. So all of these cities on this outer ring have got a lot of attributes. Because of the two populations, you can pull talent. I would tell you that as a Midwestern region, we're not there yet, people are saying they want to spend huge dollars on train systems and such. I would say that some feel that starting with the streetcar in Cincinnati, a small ring, it will build out, and then ultimately they want it to be the first of many things. I think anything that keeps you up with the other communities, Denver, Colorado, Portland, Oregon, you know, a lot of these have people movers, not tourism things, people movers. I think you're going to have them to compete, but it's always a where do you spend the dollars first? And thank goodness I just do economic development and I am not running for office, so I don't have to make those decisions. It's a great question. Other questions? Yes, David.
You're not running for office, so I can ask you this question. The state of West Virginia became the 26th state to become a right-to-work state. And part of it was the fact that it was losing coal and that, and there was also, you looking at our situation, we're surrounded with the exception of Kentucky and Pennsylvania, which is kind of thin. Is that something that's been a hindrance? Because I understand there are some businesses, unless it's right to work, they won't even put it on the radar screen. Have you seen any of that yet?
Yeah, no, we've definitely seen this. So right to work, if you're not familiar, that is not an anti-union state, but you as an individual do not have to join a union. So you have the choice. It's choosing whether or not to be in a union. It doesn't mean you don't have unions within that state. Indiana went right to work 3 years ago. Kentucky is under litigation right now, and with their new governor, I feel confident that they will get right to work within the next few years. I am not giving my opinion on if unions are good or bad or anything. What my opinion is in my expertise. And when a company is looking at a region and they put out a request for information, so they say, we're looking for a building with 300,000 square feet and 200 parking spots and close to railway and roadway, you know, they can tell us all kinds of things they need. Many times when they'll send it to a state or they're working with their consultant and they'll say, if it's a non-right to work state, don't even bother sending it. Because their goal is to cut you out of the funnel. They've got thousands and thousands of organizations like mine saying, come to our region, we're the best, we have a great quality of life. Well, at the end of the day, it's got to make business sense. So if a company says that's important to them, you don't even know if you don't get a chance to get to the table. Because we have union friendly here. This is not a hostile area for union, but just the stigma can get you cut out of the competition. So I have expressed to state government that I do think we worked a project that competed not with my 3 counties in Indiana, but some other places in Indiana, and they used that against us for Southwest Ohio because they are right to work. I don't know the final reason they chose not to be in Ohio, but they did go to a right to work state. There will be more to come on that. Governor Kasich is not interested in that legislation, but we'll have to see what the future holds. Paul, do you mind? Okay, please. Yes, sir.
As part of regional economic development, the bridge replacement is vital.
Absolutely.
What's happening with that?
Yeah, so it's not just the bridge. It is the 75 bridge corridor. So you're talking about 7 miles in northern Kentucky going up the Cut and the Hill. It's 3 to 4 miles in Cincinnati, Hamilton County. And the bridge. It is to repair the existing bridge, the Brent Spence Bridge going over the Ohio River, and to build a new bridge. That has been going on for 20 plus years, but over the past 4 years, it has truly heated up because we've seen great development in the region and it's getting more and more and more capacity. In fact, it's to dangerous levels. Now, don't go out and say, Jonna said the bridge is going to fall. I did not say that. The bridge is unsafe because it's functionally obsolete. It is carrying too much traffic across it every day. There are no safety lanes on the bridge. If you break down, well, I don't let my 16-year-old drive over it, so I will just say that. It's just a death trap. But the uniqueness is that it connects 2 states, and the bridge technically is owned by the state of Kentucky. So Ohio cannot choose to add a user fee, i.e. a toll. They can't, you can't do that. You can't do it in one state and not do it in both. I can't remember my civics, but I think it's like interstate. You're my attorney, not practicing, but interstate commerce, you cannot prohibit, you can't charge a fee to come into the other state. So Ohio can't just act without Kentucky. And I would tell you, I feel that at this point, it is mired down in politics. I'm afraid that we are going to lose some opportunities to my counterparts in Louisville. They built 2 bridges. They already have one of those open, not one, but 2 over to Indiana. And interstate traffic will just bypass greater Cincinnati. They will bypass our 75 right here where we were talking about it's such a mecca of development and go around us. And you don't just decide you want a new bridge in a year and, oh, now we need to build it. This takes years. We're losing right now in that regard. But forget my putting on my economic development hat. It's the safety issue too. The local traffic that travels across that bridge is just immense. So if we don't do something, we're still going to have the local traffic issues. And I feel we should add the safety lanes back in on the bridge until we can make some kind of a decision. Because I don't want anybody else to be crushed or knocked over. And unfortunately, I don't see an end in sight anytime soon. Okay, I have 3 minutes. Paul, do you want the last question? You raised your hand. I'm not putting you on the spot.
Well, I was just going to ask you, we've talked a lot about the pluses of the area. I know one of the minuses that we've talked about internally with our group is the problem of the lack of inventory in specific types of sites. And I didn't know if you wanted to comment on that a little bit, what you're working on.
Yeah, so the question was about sites inventory. What does that mean in my world? Well, that's product. I have to have buildings or green space or revitalized brown space to, which would be former brownfields, to sell. We have to have something to show the client. Okay, John, can you imagine if you came to my house and you just said, hey, I'm John, I have got a door for you. Just trust me, you don't need to see any pictures. You can vision this. Well, unfortunately, that's kind of where we are on some things in our industry. Because so much has grown up so fast, we don't have enough quality sites and buildings that are available today. Companies want different commercial space than what they did 30 years ago. I mean, I've seen some buildings from the 70s and 80s that, believe me, the 80s were some good years, but a floor plate that goes straight up and, you know, only has 20,000, 40,000 square feet on one floor, they don't want that. They want open space. You know what I'm talking about. It's a different work environment now. Or talking about greenfield, you can't just take an end user to the cornfield these days and say, let me tell you what could be here. You already have to have infrastructure to the site. You already have to have the zoning on the site. You already have to have the environmental 1 and 2 done on the site. You have to have it building ready. So in other words, you could go vertical immediately because time is money, just like it is in your business. And if we have to say, well, we'll have this ready for you in a year, they're going to go to the city that already has the facility. And I'll tell you, Hamilton last year had a huge year, the city of Hamilton. And people have said, well, why'd they do so good? Why Hamilton? Well, number one, they're really good at economic development. But number two, they had available buildings. They had repurposed, I think it was an old Sears building or JCPenney's, don't hold me to that. What was it? Elder Beerman. And it's going to be a call center. But I mean, you've got to have some forward thinking. Cities on this northwest side have had some tremendous, wonderful years that they built up, but you have a lot of older inventory now. So you have to think about, what do we want to be? Should we tear some buildings down? Should we clean up if you have any brownfield sites? Should we buy up some parcels and get them ready for redevelopment? Because you want to be ready when we bring you a possible end user. You can't start then. And then lastly, I will say, if any of you are elected officials, it does not help me when a place is zoned residential and you say, don't worry about it. We'll get that zoning changed. You give us one meeting. Ray, where are you, Ray? How quickly in Forest Park? Exactly. The point being, you start to get into politics and things can take longer, or you have residential around and people go, oh, wait a minute, that's too much truck traffic next to me. We have to have those things already answered. We need certainty for the end user. And I am fine for people to build, you know, residential or lifestyle centers or whatever it might be, but we need product to create sites that are really nice, high-paying jobs, what we call primary industry, because all of those people then shop at those local. They buy from you. They live in your neighborhoods. But you have to have a strong business base of primary industry before you have the service industry. Okay, 1 o'clock on the dot. I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for your time. It's my pleasure to be here.